You're listening to the Modern Mainframe, BMC's intelligent C optimization and transformation podcast, covering the latest trends and issues in the mainframe and how BMC AMI solutions can help you make change your competitive advantage.
Hello and welcome to the Modern Mainframe. I'm Matt Dallaire. Today we'll be taking a look at how cutting-edge technologies like AI, machine learning, and intelligent automation are revolutionizing mainframe operations, all within the context of a future-proof interface designed specifically for equipping the next generation of system programmers. Joining me for today's discussion are BMC Director of Product Management, Alan Warhurst, Senior Solution Engineer, Steven Dzikowski, and Principal Solution Marketing Manager, Nick Mears. Alan, Steven, Nick, thanks for being here.
Hello.
Hi, thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
So I think we'll start off kind of setting the stage for the discussion. How have we gotten to where we are today in terms of mainframe operations, the skills gap with newer professionals entering the field, and why is there an issue with it today? Alan, I think we'll start with you.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, so the mainframe's been around for, 40, 50 years, maybe 60 years in some instances. And I think, certainly back when I was a SysProg back in like the late 90s and those kind of things, many people, not so many people were actually coming into the mainframe space. I think the one thing that I've seen is, most people who kind of get their feet under the table with the mainframe technology stay around and stay there for a long time. And what that's kind of meant is that only in the past maybe 10 years or so have a lot of companies suddenly realized that we're going to keep this technology. This technology is still hugely relevant to us, still drives our business. We need a contingency plan for all of the people who have grown up with the mainframe and have developed their skills over many, many years and are now retiring in their droves. So what we've seen, I think, is an awful lot of new people come into the platform. They're excited by the technology, the power, the impact that it has in many organizations. But they've grown up in a very different age. They're used to far more different technical capabilities, different ways of interacting with systems, all kinds of stuff like that. And I think that together has really given us this place of, people talk a lot about skills crisis, knowledge crisis and all those kind of things. And I think you can definitely see why that's happened and where these things have kind of gone through. And then I think the other thing that really has changed and shifted, and even, shifted fairly recently with things like the pandemic and those kind of things, is availability and uptime requirements. So back in the early days of the mainframe, many people used to take them down at, weekends, and I've heard tales of guys saying, "Oh yeah, well we only used to run it, during office hours and those kind of things." That just doesn't exist anymore. The end user is not somebody sat in an office in one location in one time zone, all that kind of thing. It's people using their mobile phones. It's people doing credit card transactions, all those kind of things, 24/7, 365, and an entire world round. So, the availability, the uptime, and just the volume of IT processing has kind of exponentially increased. So you kind of end up with this perfect storm of there's ever more demand, there's more work going through, there's more complexity because more things are connected and all that kind of stuff, and a diminishing pool of real expertise. And even if you had a massive pool of that expertise, the complexity that's inherent in how all of these things work make it harder to do than any human can.
Yeah, and to build on with what Alan was saying with the knowledge gap and the skills gap, we're seeing those people that just know what they want to do. They know the commands. They can just go out, enter it, boom, they're done. Then we get these people that are newer in the workforce. We don't have 20, 30, 40 years of experience. So we're seeing a real shift with the younger generation and moving into some of the more UE-centric, I guess is the best way to word it, some of the UE-centric technologies, to where they could just click something which will create that entire command for them. They don't have to memorize an entire long command to get done what they want to get done. So just in the field, I see a real divide between, your seasoned mainframers and the new in field.
So there's also something to consider for our traditional mainframe operational hurdles. And it's kind of to Alan's point, the mainframe's been around for some time. So these issues have also grown over time. And whether it be lack of visibility or now a reliance on manual processes with a difficult conglomeration of siloed tools, it's actually giving a lot of problems in scaling the infrastructure, problems with with high IT and licensing costs. And to Steven's point, there's a real issue of the skills gap and knowledge gaps. To be blunt, and everyone knows this is a real problem, entire generations of practitioners are retiring, and there isn't really a middle ground practitioner, and so a lot of pretty much brand new practitioners are coming in with very little skills, or at least very little knowledge, we should say, to replace someone a seasoned veteran with decades of experience. And they use different tools or expect different tools. So that is a very real issue that Stephen brought up.
How can artificial intelligence and machine learning help bridge that gap?
So I was just going to say, I mean, from an AI point of view, I think AI is probably one of the most hyped technologies, but there's real value in what it can actually bring to the party. So I think the first area is really about helping you understand what's normal for a system. So along with the this lessening of skill level and all of that kind of stuff, the numbers of systems, the number of people looking after them have kind of tipped in a balance of, it's no longer somebody sat there constantly watching just one system. There'll be that same person who's managing 10 or 20 or 30 or maybe hundreds of different systems, and really understanding whether the system is behaving in a normal way becomes increasingly complex. The mainframe is, I think, probably one of the most instrumentable kind of IT systems going. There's hundreds, thousands of metrics for an individual system. You can almost always work out or get your way down to where the source of a problem is, and really understand it in an incredibly complicated way if you have the time. And the time and the volume of data is where lots of people are struggling, whether they've got skills or whether they've not got skills. So starting off with machine learning, and particularly things like multivariate machine learning, where you're looking at multiple metrics and how they move together as a group, really starts to unlock the possibility of knowing and understanding whether your system's performing in a normal manner, and actually seeing it not perform in a normal manner really early, ahead of when it starts to affect the service that's being delivered to an end user. And that's really one of those really key, pieces that sits in. So finding a problem and working out what caused that problem an hour after it happened is just no longer acceptable. You need to find the problem before it really kills the service or affects the service in any way that your end user will know, because that end user's probably got, doing it from a mobile phone, and has, if they're not using your service, they very quickly just change their browser to point at your biggest competitor's website or whatever else, and go and take their business elsewhere. That it's a lot easier for somebody to move away from doing it. And if your service is poor, and if they're unable to achieve what they want to achieve through your website, through their app, whatever that is, they will just go somewhere else. So that ability to detect things really, really early is kind of key. And I think, the ML world really, really helps with that. I think then as you build on that and you add in other AI technologies, things like rules-based AI, which takes you through diagnosis paths and those kind of things, what you can then start to do is replace some of that experience. So you get the insight of, okay, I've got lots and lots of data. Where do I need to focus my time? And then, okay, what is it I need to go and investigate? What other questions do I need to ask? You can actually get the system to almost do that for you and present back to you relevant information that's relevant to the issue or the challenge that you're seeing. Perhaps tell you, certainly in real time and preferably ahead of time, that maybe you're going to have a problem with doing that and managing that. And then, that really helps you with that skill side of it, because also it's like, you don't need to be the experienced systems programmer that's seen this problem 20 times. That's already captured within the rules, within your AI and those kind of things, and then helps you drive through to getting some kind of answer from there.
And that really helps in the future too, right? It's not just a replacement of the past generation now, it's workforce turnover, future changes.
Yeah, 100%. And it's how the newer workforce expect to work. They don't just want whole rafts of data. What they really want and need is information, both to hold their interest, but also to kind of go, well, hang on a minute, you could just point me in the right direction and be done. And let's be clear, whatever the skill level, the expectation of what those people need to do and how quickly they need to be able to react and respond is ever higher. So a system that can, moving towards the end game of having a system that truly manages itself, that's great. There will always be some level of human interaction with it. But what the focus of that human interaction is higher value work. So it's not just the simple, task driven whatever. It's like, no, actually, I'm going to do the really higher value work. I'm going to deliver that end service, and that service focus is certainly where a lot of the newer generation of staff and those kind of things come in.
Yeah, and just to kind of build on to what Alan was saying, I mean, if you have a problem on your mainframe and it takes a seasoned veteran an hour to figure it out, maybe it's going to take somebody newer in the workforce double that time, triple that time, maybe the entire day, right? If you have an AI or a machine learning product that can actually show you that problem is going to happen before it happens and allows you to alleviate that situation without the 40 years in the workforce, you've got your entry level guy and you've got your seasoned veteran that can both take that same action, stop the problem before it happens. You're lowering your risk, right? If the problem never occurs, then hey, great. There's a lot less risk there, right? And like you said, if your mainframe is up, high availability, there's less of a risk of that customer going somewhere else. So in my opinion, it really is bridging that skills gap. It's allowing a variety of people to make sure that you are running at 100% with no issues.
And it also, I see, on TV talking heads, people tend to look at AI as either taking jobs from folks or meaning we won't have to do jobs anymore. And what I'm hearing from both of you is that it could lead to even more work for folks, because you're able to see more, you're able to review more systems, you're able to head off problems on a greater scale than perhaps you were able to when it was coming in manually, so to speak.
Yeah, I think so, Matt. I think having worked in a data center, I think the thing that causes you the most pain is when you have a problem and all of the noise around it, the toil around it, all of those kind of pieces, which mean you don't achieve the projects that you need to achieve. The important things about managing and maintaining systems, keeping software up to date, improving resilience by implementing new technologies and doing things, driving projects that really help your business improve and be more successful. And I think, we've had more conversations with customers that are like, I really want to do this new and interesting stuff, but I just can't because I'm constantly in this round of when I have a problem, we all go and sit in a room, or we all sit on a Zoom call, or we all, we're in a Slack thing and we're busy dealing with that and doing all of that. Taking away that noise, that toil means that the staff can be more productive, but actually what they get to do on a day-to-day basis is more interesting and more impactful for the organization. So I think you end up in this kind of win-win from at a practitioner level. Your job's just a lot nicer because the stuff that you have to deal with is easier to deal with, and it's kind of the exciting thing. It's the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. From an employer, organizational point of view, you end up with these systems that are more available, work more. You're more able to keep them up to date and all that kind of stuff, and your business thrives more. and actually your staff are happier because they're not dealing with things that make them, if you've ever been in a war room situation, or you're constantly in war room situations, it's incredibly draining as a role, as an individual. It takes away so much of your energy, that your overall level of job satisfaction drops. And, I know organizations that have that kind of scenario, it can be very difficult to both attract and retain staff. So that is a really important element to it as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point Alan brings up, is you kind of have several benefits that AI can play. Of course, you have the platform modernization with advanced analytics that allow you for more advanced anomaly detection. Alan mentioned fewer war rooms. There could be fewer war rooms, right? Shorter war rooms and even fewer war rooms with predictive capability. And then also there's the workforce enablement, which is really important. I mean, sure, you have reduced costs and lowered risks with early identification of issues. And then there's a revenue uptick in that as well from systems being available. But I think the workforce enablement, which enables newer practitioners to hit the ground running with what would have taken a seasoned professional years of experience to be able to track down the issue. AI brings in this historical knowledge to kind of enable them to run more quickly.
Yeah, and at the end of every war room, there's always one person that says, okay, now I can go back and do my real job, right? So if you're doing less reactive work, you're letting AI help you out and either tell you something's going wrong or even hooking it into automation to automatically fixing the problem, that's lessening your workload in that aspect, but giving you a lot more time to get your everyday projects done. What am I upgrading an operating system? Am I fixing my network? What do I actually need to do? Because it probably wasn't sit here in a war room for several hours figuring out why one of my subsystems went down. So let's use AI and machine learning as much as we can to take that, for lack of better wording, boring work, that stressful, boring work away from us. Let's get back to what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, we've touched on it a little bit already, but with the next generation, we've talked about bridging experience gaps, knowledge gaps, but also how they like to work. So, Steven, how does the user interface fit in?
Yeah, so again, we're kind of in a weird point right now to where we have an aging workforce that generally wants that 3270. They want to get in there and use the commands. And then we've got the newer to the workforce that don't have that experience. They don't necessarily know everything right off. They have to go look up in the documentation. It takes longer. So we have those that need that UE that's going to help you from day one. So from our perspective, we like to have a single point of entry. So no matter which technology you're using, am I coming in on the 3270 or am I coming in on our new HTML5 UE? It doesn't matter. We can get to that same data. Both of those people can do the same work, but they could pick their preference on how they want to do it. Again, no matter which you're using, you could switch between your monitors. If maybe I'm in networking because I think I have an IP issue, and then I find out, oh no, it's a WLM issue. I need to just context over it quickly and go look at some of my my ZOS monitor data. So no matter what user experience you're using, we want to make sure that you can get there as quick as possible and just get to the data to see what you need. You don't want to have to go hunt for it, right?
I think Stephen's bang on with that. It's that whole, can I keep you in the moment? Can I have all of the information from all of the monitors? Can I have my AI, not just something separate, but as fundamentally part of that flow? So as I'm getting all of the data that I can to support that investigation that I'm doing and I'm doing with my mind, how does AI help me do that and turn some of that data into information, maybe recommend places you want to go and look or next steps that you do and all of those kind of pieces together? and do that in a really sort of modern, intuitive way of working. That's the real key here. It's about allowing people to kind of start at the beginning and go all the way through. It just naturally flows, and it's kind of fascinating watching my kids use systems and all of those kind of things. Is the web world and I'm going to go from a browser, I'm going to click and click and click, and I'm going to flow through and all that kind of stuff, is just so inbuilt in how people are so used to using tools, that if we can bring that to them from a monitoring experience and a problem investigation experience, and giving them everything in one place rather than having to hunt off and do things in a different way, that then really superpowers all of the skill and experience and everything else that we've got, with the people that are available to work on the systems.
And it isn't just for the next generation either. I've dragged my feet on adapting new technology at times, but once you do, as you said, it just becomes ingrained, and it's so much easier, so much better that you start to use it.
100%. And I think that's when we've talked about traditional monitoring and then AI enhanced stuff, actually the productivity side of the keeping yourself in the same seamless flow, the pulling all of the information together, the adding AI context into all of it, that's applicable to anybody that's going to come work on it. Like you say, even for an old duffer like me, those kind of things really help shorten the path. And I think when we talked about workforce and we said, lots of people are leaving, that doesn't mean that there are no people who've got 20 or 30 years of experience left on the mainframe. There are many, but there are far fewer, and each shop has far less of them. So maximizing the value that you can get out of their time is also a really important element of, and then also everybody being able to talk in a single context, in a single space, and see exactly the same thing across multiple views of it is also a really important thing as well.
And I'd like to add too, when we're talking about the UI and the user experience, Alan's right. There are some who still have 20, 30 years of experience, but even they would appreciate the ability to have a single entry point, or a not having to switch between multiple monitors. Managers have said this in the past. They're looking to future-proof their modernization efforts, and one way to future-proof is to look at the UI. And one thing that you can do is, as you're examining future tools and solutions, you could bring in your seasoned practitioners, but you could also bring in the vetting process your newer practitioners, because as everyone said, newer practitioners, they just kind of are ingrained with a certain expectations regarding just a UI. I think that's really important. And you might get some interesting feedback as you have your younger practitioners in the vetting process, because they'll see things differently. They'll have unbiased opinions and won't be afraid to share what they think.
All right, yeah, and to kind of sum up with the user experience and using AI at the same time, I mean, Ops Insight, for example, when it detects that issue that's going on, it's going to tell you what most likely the root cause is. It's going to tell you what's causing that, how to go actually see what it is. But it's not just going to do that. It's going to build out that link for you. You just click a simple link right in the same user interface. It then pops up the monitoring data. So it's even shortening the time to react, right? You're no longer having to figure out, okay, where do I need to go? What system is this? What subsystem? Nothing, right? We're using that AI and machine learning to just say, here's a problem, go look here, this is what you need to do. And you can't even get that out of a seasoned veteran, right? They're going to get there, but it's going to take longer. So why waste that important person's time if we can do it automatically? Let's figure out what the problem is. Let's see it in front of our faces on a user interface that anyone can use, and then let's solve the problem and move on.
So, Steven, you mentioned earlier automation. So how does advanced automation further help the benefits brought by AI?
Yeah, absolutely. So today, we're running basically off what policy-based automation, right? You have some sort of an automation product out there that says, okay, I got this response. I know I need to do this. Now, as we're moving in more into the AI and the machine learning, you may not necessarily need to build out that specific automation, right? You're going to want it to be figured out by the AI. You don't necessarily want to have to code an automation rule for every possible instance. We need to learn based on past experiences. However the model's trained, right? It's going to have past experiences and know the most common way to solve that. What are the possible risks? All of that. So you really want to take it out of the human element and figure out, is this something that we can automate based on the knowledge we have, as opposed to, well, last time this happened, I tried 3 things, one of them might have worked. That's more policy based, right? We want the AI to kind of assist us on this automation.
I think that the most important thing is that being able to detect a problem, being able to work out maybe what the root cause is great, but at the end of the day, you need to take some action. And I think that's where automation and having really close coupled AI and monitoring along with automation really brings the power of the system. So, Stephen said, today you can absolutely, have policies and have rules that allow you to automate for previously seen conditions. But the combination of AI and automation then gives you maybe I'm going to have a slightly generic set of rules. Maybe I'm going to have AI recommend some remediation or some action to take. And if that works, then maybe I want to harden that into my automation, and I'll always do that if I see that future scenario as we go forward. I think that view, if I think about kind of the end goal, what I think everybody would like is a mainframe, is an IT system that just kind of fixes itself. It knows it's going wrong and it fixes itself. And I think the automation and the intelligence around automation really comes into being a critical requirement of doing that. So we've seen a lot of work done around in the AI space around, okay, can I help you detect a problem? I think the next wave we're really going to see is, okay, well, how can I automate fixing that problem? How can I make sure that when those problems happen, whether it's I capture the right diagnostic information because I need to talk to a vendor, or I need to go away and do some further investigation offline for, I've recovered the situation, but I want to know why that happened and where my issue is, or whether that's, I want to go away and restart or change or do whatever else it is. Automation really becomes the key element to sort of fit together with doing that, because that's what really gives you this incident avoidance capability. And also when you're in an incident, if you need to go and do something, your automation engine can really help you with doing that to really improve that pieces as well. And I think the other thing to just say in there is automation is about action. It's also about helping you tell people. So it's about how you go and flag out to other systems, your ITSM systems, in terms of incident management, problem management, those kind of things. Automating those, they're sending out that information and those responses means that everybody in the organization is working to the most up-to-date information.
So there's a lowered risk benefit from that. What Alan was talking about, the incident management. If you have advanced automation, you're able to prevent service disruptions, and basically a faster automated response, replacing the manual process, mitigates the risks of it going down beforehand, and reduce costs as well. Stephen had mentioned, there's a cost for tracking these issues down, right? And automation actually helps with some of that. There's, with automated workflows in place, they can actually have a real impact on operational expenses in tracking down incident situations.
And to take it a step further, if you already have your policy-based rules listed for automation, why wouldn't you want machine learning to help you tweak those and to make those better? What if I have my threshold set at 60% and as it's running, I have some sort of machine learning program out there that says, hey, we're actually getting a adverse effect at about 55%. Why wouldn't you want to get that input to help you make sure that your system's running, at more peak efficiency? So even with a rules base, there is room for machine learning, right?
So the question that always pops up in my head with these things is where do you start? How do you get started? What kind of challenges are there in implementing this kind of system? Because you can't just flip a switch, right?
No, you really can't. And I think the piece that you really kind of want to focus on, I think understanding where your site and where your site's imperatives are. So is it helping the new and career person? Is it improving your uptime and availability and all of those kind of pieces? I think Nick made it, a great comment earlier on about bringing some of the new and career people into the decision-making process of acquisition of new capabilities and new technologies. I think the piece that I always think about is, look, what skills have I got, and am I capable of implementing one of these tools? Can I manage one of these tools? Am I going to need new and specialist skills to do so? Because then that becomes a problem. So really looking at, can I do this with, a systems programmer or somebody like that, rather than having to recruit a whole team of data scientists? And, there's a lot of platforms out there that can manage data and tell you all sorts of things out of data that may or may not be true. So how do you find the blended team that can do that for you, or can you find a solution in the marketplace where, a lot of that work has already been done for you? Is one. I think building upon, looking at that integrated view. So we talked a little bit about the experience and having that seamless experience. So, can you deliver that? Can you get that out of products that you have in place? How do they work from there? And I think the beauty of implementing some of these solutions is, if they're done right and they're built right by the vendor in question, it's a fairly simple process to kind of build upon. You don't lose anything by implementing, new solutions that integrate well with your existing monitoring capabilities, and that flow through and do that. And if your current choice of monitoring solution, all that kind of stuff, doesn't really hook in, or that your vendor gives you something completely different off to the side, then maybe that's an opportunity to look at and go, maybe we need to swap out and go for a company that has that kind of integrated vision and that ability to deliver on simplifying out how these things work and where they go to from there. I think that is really important to fit in. And then I think one of the other conversations I've definitely had with a lot of customers is, at an enterprise level, we've got this tool, and we therefore need a mainframe tool that fits in with that. And that's really important. I will say most mainframe vendors would always look to try and do some integration, but if we're not going to play nicely with whoever the vendor is, then maybe they're not they shouldn't be your choice to fit through. Because the one thing that I think with all of these AI solutions, particularly when we talk at an enterprise level, is most organizations have many of them. And what is flavor of the month today may not be flavor of the month tomorrow. So picking, solutions and technologies that are open and flexible, I think is really, really important to make sure that the time and effort that you put in to manage your mainframe system isn't lost if, your enterprise takes a slightly different approach and view as you go forward.
Well, and Alan brought up a really good point there, that what we're hearing from customers is that there's the mainframe and then the rest of the enterprise, right? Why am I not doing my security monitoring for the mainframe and the enterprise together? Why am I not doing my, let's say, certificate implementation, right? Why do I have to go out to the mainframe to do specific certificates, but everyone else uses some enterprise level thing, right? If we can bring the enterprise together, that just makes sure that there's less work involved to get done what you need to do. You have that holistic view of your entire enterprise. It's not mainframe versus other systems, right? Mainframe is part of everything else. You need everything to run.
Can you share any insight into maybe where things might be trending in the future with emerging technologies, how we can build upon what we have now, maybe where things are headed? Alan?
Yeah, sure, Matt. So I think we've started to see, and customers have really started to realise the power of a number of AI technologies. So machine learning, absolutely, rules-based AI from a problem diagnosis point of view, for sure. I think one of the biggest trends in the industry right now is around generative AI. But I think that shows real promise when you combine it with the other capabilities. So I think the ability to, like Stephen talked about, the power of automation and how automation can really help you, and how machine learning can help identify something and a trend. Will having a system that can generate you automation based on a situation dynamically is something that maybe we'll get to in the future. I think in the short term, what we'll probably see is people really being helped with areas like writing Rex code, or understanding the plethora of Rex rules and execs and things that lie around in systems that help automate and manage them. So commenting on those kind of things, maybe generating new ones of those, maybe helping people look at migration to more modern languages, things like Python and all of those kind of pieces. And also the other area where I think there's probably quite a lot of value from a generative AI point of view is in things like, a lot of systems have things that people do manually today, and actually improving that state of automation, increasing the level of automation in the system, as we talked about, means that there's certainly a lower risk because things will be done in a more regular fashion. There's the ability to redeploy those people and get them to do things of more value for the organization. And I think the blocker for a lot of organizations has been people spending time going and understanding and being able to then go away and write the rules, or go and write the execs that would do that kind of work. So you can certainly see that AI will have a part to play in, let's look at what's happened on the system. Let me generate you some rules, some execs, whatever those pieces of automation actually are, to really help you improve your level of automation and those kind of things. I think in the short term that those will almost certainly be, ones where there will need to be validation of it. Mainframes are traditionally highly risk averse, and I don't think there are many people who have the confidence that a ChatGPT or ChatOps type capability will generate you the right answer, 100% the right answer the first time today. Maybe that will come in the future, but getting you to 80, 90% of the way, and then you can do the refinements, you can put it into a test system, you can validate, you can check. That, I think, shows real potential to help advance people's level of automation and truly deliver this kind of mainframe that can detect a problem itself, can diagnose a problem itself, and then can automate it itself with minimal human interaction, so that they can go forward and do other things. And that's where I think I see us as stepping towards as we go forward into the future.
I'll add one thing here too, that the real key here is there's a lot of buzz around AI, machine learning, and generative AI, which can truly have transformational implications for the industry. But I think the key here is that they're not really just used as one-off tools, but yet they're incorporated as part of a platform approach that enables AI in whatever form it's leveraged to really help basically future-proof the user experience. I think that's the most important part. It can't be a standalone buzzy tool or feature. It really has to be embedded deeply within the user experience, I think.
Well, it's been a great conversation. We've covered a lot of ground, from the past to the present to you mentioned buzz to infinity and beyond. So I'd like to thank all of you, Alan, Stephen, Nick. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for having this great conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
And thank you also to our listeners. I'll include some links in the show notes to some blog posts, white papers, other podcasts that you can check out to learn more on the subject. We'll talk to you next time on the Modern Mainframe. Take care.
You're listening to the Modern Mainframe, BMC's intelligent C optimization and transformation podcast, covering the latest trends and issues in the mainframe and how BMC AMI solutions can help you make change your competitive advantage.